My divine, amazing Christar family, I do apologize that this report is coming out a little bit late, but the energy is still important for us to have a little chat about. So let's go ahead and look at the energy for this week. This is the energy for the week of the 20th to the 26th. And we do have a little bit of kind of fluctuation in the energy, but not too much. This week is more about the settling in for the new moon energy. How are you going to embrace that? There's not a lot that's going to be creating a lot of kind of shifting and changing. That was last week. It was pretty intense, I could say for myself. Yesterday, I definitely felt it was a bit more of a relief. Yesterday was Monday, the 20th, or sorry, the 21st, and it definitely felt like there was a bit of a release of energy. But let's look at some of the things that are going on for this week. So let's go ahead and just touch on some of the basics for this week, some of the neat things that are still holding a major influence within our life is the vibration of Neptune and Saturn. They're going to stay in retrograde yet again all week in the gate 25. The other really big energy is just not quite in opposition, but it's on the other side, and it's going to be the vibration of Mars and the South Node. Now, they're not in the same gate, but as they do move past each other, they're going to be holding vibration in the gate 6 and the gate 47, eventually holding both the same energies. And within that, this is going to be kind of a big player because Mars is also going to have an influence on Venus, which is over here in conjunction with Hygeia, that is going to be giving us a bit of a square. And as we're talking today, I'm actually recording this 2 days late on the 22nd. So it's Tuesday today as I'm recording this. So we're already hitting that square energy, but I wanted to show where the beginning of the week is. And so we can move through this vibration. Please remember, as you look at this wheel, don't take into account the houses on here. It's always going to pull it up based on the location that I'm drawing the map from, which is Spokane, Washington, which is the west coast of the United States. So within that, this is just for us to get a reference. The other thing that was really major this last week was basically Pluto has been in retrograde. Saturn and Neptune both moved into a retrograde within the last 8 to 10 days. Both of them started to move into that retrograde as well. So we've had that, but our most recent one was Mercury just moved into retrograde just at the tail end of last week. So, this is really a new Mercury retrograde energy for us. It moved in the gate 7 energy. Um, so within that, we're having a massive vibration of this. How are we going to harness this? And how are we going to kind of go into review with a lot of the energies that we've been working with? So as we look at the vibration for this week, we are still absolutely in the true sky Cancer energy. And this is going to be our final full week in this energy. Next week, we're going to be moving into Gemini. So that's going to be a neat thing to pay attention to. As we then look at this week again, the 20th to the 26th, basically we're starting out this week in the gate 56 and the Earth in the gate 60. We did talk about that a bit last week. This again, the shadow is distraction for the gate 56. The city of it and the gift of it is enrichment, and then the city intoxication, really being high on life is a neat way of looking at it. Basically opening us up to possibilities, opening us up to how do we want to have our life look, that we can know that physical matter in reality, for all intents and purposes, is just an experience, that it isn't the totality of who we are, and how we manifest and create this life is really up to us, that we're the ones that make it what it is. We're the ones that either perceive it as super, super like stressful or important or the end of the world as far as how things happen, or do we go with the flow with things? Are we intoxicated by life? Are you intoxicated by every flower and every bird and every experience that you see? And do you remember that it's a mere reflection of you? So, within the Gene Keys, it's saying in the modern world, we appear almost desperate to distract ourselves from who we really are. And, it's very interesting when you really dive into the aspect of starting to unplug from this physical reality, starting to become multidimensional. It can be very scary at first because you lose your footing and your grounding on what you thought was real. And when you start connect to your multidimensional layer that isn't bound by material, that really you are the essence of your soul, and your soul is formless. It can throw our mind for a loop of kind of feeling a bit of psychosis within there, feeling a little bit crazy, like we've lost our mind. And that's why a lot of times people will let go of the spiritual path. They'll get to that doorway of letting go of this reality and realize that being in the void, being formless, being in a state of just pure divine energy is too much. They can't handle it. And they will crawl back into the physical reality and put importance back onto the mundane, the everyday life, the making things matter in this reality because then it feels safe and secure. In some ways, it's like when we were a child and we were scared of something in our room, we would put a blanket or a pillow over our head and we would figure, well, if we can't see it, then it can't see us. And we would feel as though that made us feel safe. It's kind of the same thing. It says right here, the true enjoyment is rooted inside your being rather than in the external. And so it says to be divine does not mean giving up sensual delights. And that's the thing that's really important is a lot of times people will be like, oh, well, if I start to move into the spiritualized path, then maybe nothing will matter. Everything matters more because you dive into the almost the atomic or the molecule excitement and intoxication experience. You should become childlike in wonder and joy of life and realize that everything is fleeting in the moment. So it's not that it doesn't matter, it's that it matters more because you want to soak up every essence of the experience. So that is one perspective to hold in there, and that's the energy we're going to take into the gate 31. Now, the gate 31 is really important because this is what's going to start to set us up into this leadership energy. Gate 31 is going to start to move us into a whole new vibration. Let's see if we can click over here. And within this, the gate 31, let me see if it'll let me amplify this up over here. It is going to bring in a vibrational energy of starting to amplify. How do you put into motion and just to highlight it, I can't get it much bigger for you, but it's right here in the middle, in the throat center. It connects to the gate 7, which is where Mercury started its retrograde. And the gate 31 is about leadership. It's going to be leadership through being your authentic self. It's not leadership by telling people what to do, it's leadership through example. So there's a lot of you that actually have this entire channel. These are all the moon gates that are being lit up. So, one of the key things that I will say is if you have any of these gates in your chart, this is a very significant week for you in whatever way that these are being activated. And if you happen to have the 31 and the 7, the role of the leader. This is really important. It's going to ask you what is your direction and your focus that you're going to step into, and this will be something you're stepping into on the new moon on Thursday. Thursday is when the sun moves into the gate 31. It's also the day of the new moon, and the sun moves into the gate 31 right a few hours before the new moon. So the new moon is going to be happening in the gate 31. So this is a neat new moon experience of what are you planting into an actionable step of being a pillar of light, of reflection for the world. This shadow of the gate 31, arrogance. Now, within that, we could really kind of recognize that arrogance is going to be a vibration of where we start to over sensualize our own experience of authority rather than recognizing leaders are meant to be kind of the caretakers of those that they are leading, not the the general, so to speak, but more so the inspirer, the person that inspires someone to be better in their own life. This is about, again, within the Gene Keys, it's called sounding your truth. And I really love it. So let's look at this on the shadow side. It says the modern world we see around us is nothing more than a mental construct created out of billions and billions of words. And, this goes into that whole vibration of how do you have an intoxication with life? It's like, yeah, well, if we really start to understand that our spoken word is so important, that everything we think and perceive is what is creating how we see our reality around us, that we can realize that even just the most subtle shifts and changes in how we speak to ourselves is going to start to change this whole experience we're having in this life. As it moves on in the Gate 31 from the Gene Keys book, it says we can see how the specific release of a particular book or film at a particular time can have a vast impact on the whole planetary consciousness. I like this because, in the sense that there is a lot of things that are starting to come into the awareness stream, even here within some of the spiritualized possibilities, what we might think of as our cities, our miraculous gifts. A lot more tipping points are coming forward of our ability to actually sustain ourselves without relying on the material reality. This is how the cities would live. This is how the Agoris many times live, is they don't consume a lot of food. They don't partake a lot of the material reality because they spend the majority of their time multidimensionally in other planes. And it doesn't mean they're not enjoying this reality just because they're not having a bottle of wine or eating a piece of cheesecake. It just means that they are experiencing this reality at a different molecular level. And so there's a lot of different ways that we can really be a part of creation, and it doesn't always have to be within its densest form. And neither of them is right and neither of them is wrong. It's just remembering too that many of us have already had, say, many life cycles that we've enjoyed the material, but have you enjoyed this reality in a very spiritualized way? Meaning that how many lifetimes have you had where you have lived the mundane life? You have eaten, gone to work, had kids, done the whole nine yards, been in the monasteries, been in the temples, done the rituals, done all the physical things. And how many lifetimes have you been in this reality, but been in a spiritualized form within it, not really partaking in the material, yet holding the material reality? It's another experience, it's another depth to the experience. And it's just an invitation of, do you, as a flame holder, do you want to start maybe being a beacon or a herald into what it means to be in this reality, to be so aware of the light spectrums that are flashing on and off, that you don't see the physical for what it really is, and you can actually breathe the living breath into those light sequences where it needs to be, and not be bound by the dramas or the stories. So this is really neat, really important. So it says in the end here, the city, to be truly humble, you wouldn't mind others thinking you were arrogant. Because why? You're being your own authentic self. You're being your own person. You're sounding your truth and you're not trying to follow. And so others might think it be that, but really you're doing it from a sense of, I will hold this vibration, I will be this pillar, not because I'm trying to be something, but because this is what I'm choosing to experience at this time. That's really amazing. So let me see if I can move on here. As we move through here, again, these are the moon gates, so you can just understand what kind of energies are playing through as far as the moon. Venus and Mars have started to go square, and this is going to help us build into the new moon energy that's going to move into Thursday. Again, Thursday, here's the new moon chart and vibration that we're going to get to see. You're going to see moon and sun conjunct. That makes the new moon. At the same time, you're going to see all of this vibration. Sedna, Uranus has been playing a big game. This is actually a lot of what's shaking up stuff on the earth, especially within the waters, the waterways, these kinds of things. Remember, this is still in a Pleiadian energy. So, how are we maybe shaking up some of our own internal emotional waters? Moon, Mars, or sorry, South Node, Mars, pardon, talking too fast here, is still having that conjunction energy. As Mars starts to move away, that's going to lessen a little bit more. But just know that Mars and Venus are playing a square for the next 3 days. They're going to play that square. If I just look at the actual dates within here, it's going to go till basically right at the new moon ceremony. So, just this vibration of, adding Hygeia in there, Venus, Hygeia, where are we restructuring ourselves, our values, our life, Mars and the South Node. Mars is going to empower us to either feel the things that have been kind of stored in our limbic system, maybe our deepest fears that have been embedded within there. South Node is kind of, think of it as your limbic system, what's stored in there and what is held from the past incarnational experiences or this early lifetime, and where are you ready to let that go. Mars is going to either make it come up big for you. I will say for myself, there were a couple moments that I was able to watch myself feel some limbic stuff come up. um around places sometimes that we take the RV. But within that, to recognize that those are the opportunity to sit with it, to love it, to breathe through it, to move the energy. Mars is going to bring it up big. And as you allow that to move through, it's also giving us the opportunity to bring into empowerment the stuff in our limbic system that remembers all the places that we have moved past all struggles, past all things, and here we are again. So, this is going to be our week after the new moon. Basically, everything's going to start to settle. We're going to have only the energy of Saturn and Neptune in conjunction to each other, our retrograde energies playing. But other than that, really what we get to focus on is just whatever the new moon is, and how we're going to take that into next week. Next week, it's actually going to be the vibration of uh Tuesday and Wednesday is when the crossover time for us moving into true sky Gemini. So we got a little bit of time with that. So I hope this helps a little bit. I love you guys so much.